Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com. And if you haven't already, follow us on social media for tips, tutorials, giveaways, and daily inspiration.
Hi, I'm Dr. Tenesha Wards with Infinity Wellness Center, and I'll be your guest host today on the WellnessPlus Podcast. Joining me today is Coach Kati Epps from MyBodyGX, founder and health coach, and her focus is helping people achieve whatever their health goal is, whether it's weight loss, fitness goals, performance enhancement, using genetics to figure out how to eat, what they should eat, how to exercise, when and how, and what exercises they should do. So thank you, Kati, for coming and visiting us today from your busy, busy day with 2 little boys.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to this. So
Great. So how did you get into this?
So back in college, I have a degree in chemistry. So back in college, I was really interested in fitness and nutrition, and I explored it on the side of personal training. Well, as I got older and things started progressing through, different avenues, whether it be our access to DNA testing, whether it be our access even to scientific data and true research on how to train our bodies and all of that, I started looking more at it from a scientific standpoint. Well, I was a corporate health coach a few years ago, and I met up with a company that did genetic testing on a corporate level. And I loved the idea of utilizing this information to help people on a personal level. And so I spoke with that lab, and they allow me to utilize their lab in order to analyze our genetic reports. And so I took that information and was able to then give it to basically everyone, so that, if you are trying to lose weight, or you're trying to become better at your sport, or you want to have a healthier aging body, whatever it is that's important to you, we could then utilize your genetic testing in order to give you that best possible life.
And when I learned of you, because we have patients and clients in common, I was like, yes, that is speaking my language. I think that genetic testing really is the future of medicine.
I completely agree. I think it's one of the most underutilized new technologies that we have.
And I think they're calling it precision medicine even, because no 2 people are alike. So
exactly.
no 2, and I know you'll agree with this, and I want to ask your opinion a bit more on it. No 2 people have the same meal plan or fitness plan that's going to work for them. And I've seen that in practice, right? Somebody might do keto and they feel awful. Mm-hmm. Or somebody might go vegetarian and they feel awful. Mm-hmm. So yeah, tell us what you've learned in looking at people's genetics and how sometimes they're just doing the wrong foods or the wrong diets.
Sure. So most of us look at nutrition from a globo standpoint. So all of my friends are doing keto, I'm going to try keto too. I'm in with a group of friends that are vegan, I'll probably try that lifestyle. Or we've read about it. We've read about the health benefits. Mm-hmm. Somebody stands up and says, hey, I've had a really great experience with this lifestyle, and so we go and try it too. Well, depending on your genetics, that may or may not be a good option for you. So we look at 3 things. Your protein utilization, your fat utilization, and your carbohydrate utilization. How does your body take those macronutrients, which are those things that make up the majority of the energy from our food, and how we ingest them, and how does your body then break it up and use it for energy, use it for potential weight loss or burning body fat? How does it use it for healing and anti-inflammatory? So as we're analyzing that information, and I can look at it and say, okay, you have an enhanced utilization of protein. Now, if you're currently a vegan or vegetarian, that doesn't mean that you need to start eating animal proteins, but we really need to analyze what you're putting into your body to make sure you're getting enough proteins. What I have found with many vegans and vegetarians is they are heavier on the sides of fats. Mm-hmm. And so, which is a great energy source, but it doesn't necessarily maybe fit their nutrition for what their body likes. Maybe they have a low utilization of fat, an enhanced utilization of protein. well, how do we make sure that we're getting the right plant proteins and the right fats into you to balance that out? And similar with keto, like if you do not have an enhanced ability to utilize keto or to use fat, keto would be a terrible plan for you.
Right.
So like I have a low utilization of fat, but I have an enhanced utilization of carbohydrates. So I do much better on, and by enhanced carbohydrates, I do not mean you get to eat all of the cookies and all of the bread. But you get...
Yeah, let's clarify carbohydrates here.
So we're talking, you know, our vegetables. We're talking about legumes. We're talking about...
Sweet potatoes.
Those tubulars, so your sweet potatoes, your squashes, your red potatoes, even your healthy grains like your quinoas, couscous, amaranth, oats, things like that.
Uh-huh.
So the whole foods.
So you're not putting people on a cookie...
cookie pizza diet. No.
Based on their genetics.
Oh my gosh.
Darn.
Oh my gosh. Do you know how rich I would be if I could be like, for you shall eat all the pizza. For you, all of the pad thai. For you, spaghetti and meatballs. You're welcome.
Yeah, I wish it was like that, right? I don't think anybody's genetics call for that kind of carbohydrate intake, right?
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah. We're just not made that way, no matter how you shake it out,
Yep,
right?
exactly. But in knowing that, you can really analyze what you're ingesting and then kind of determine, do you want to be an omnivore? Like, do you want to eat different animal proteins, or do you want to go more pescatarian? Do you have a lot of inflammation in your body, and maybe that would be something that would help reduce it? And if so, how much of these foods should you be eating in order to live your healthiest life? Should you have slightly more carbohydrates, slightly less protein, and maybe a moderate amount of fat? What does that really look like? And every single person is different when it comes to that.
And you map that out for people, right? Like you'll write out meal plans with the percentages of what they should be eating.
Absolutely. So I write custom meal plans, and each day's plan will have multiple meals. So let's just be generic and say you have breakfast, lunch, and dinner and one snack. So 4 different meals. Each one of those is going to be broken down into the calories, the carbs, the fat, the protein. And the reason I do it that way is twofold. One, I want you to be consciously aware of where your nutrition is coming from so that you can learn from it. But then secondarily, I want you to use that information to manipulate your own meal plans later. So if you look at a salad, and from the left of to the right of the salad, it says, this was 430 calories and there were 36 grams of carbohydrates and 4 grams of fat and 19 grams of protein, or whatever that looks like. If tomorrow you don't want to have a salad and you'd much rather have fish and asparagus and sweet potato, you could manipulate those foods to match those macros and that information.
So you just said a big word that I think has become a bit of a buzzword, especially in the keto world, macro. Will you break that down for us, what macronutrition, micro is? Because I think I just think not everybody knows, and it's being thrown around a lot, and it's, well, what exactly is that?
Yeah, so your macros are your proteins, carbohydrates, and fats, and they're not created equally. So carbohydrates are 4 calories per gram, proteins are 4 calories per gram, but fat is 9 calories per gram.
Okay.
And not to throw everybody off, but sugar is 7 calories per gram, but we usually hide it in the carbohydrate section. So like if you had a glass of wine, we'd count it as carbohydrates.
Got it.
But
we don't have wine here,
yeah,
by the way. We have cucumber water, which is awesome with mint flavor.
Yeah, Flo makes this, and it's alkaline water, and it is so refreshing.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it says
it's not wine, though. And no carbohydrates. So, okay, so back to the carbohydrates.
So that's your macronutrients. So when people say that they've been counting their macros, they have a certain number that they're trying to hit every day. So as an example, you might have 150 carbohydrates, you might have 50 fats, you might have 80 protein.
And this is what your genetic report would tell us.
This is exactly right.
Got it.
So we can manipulate it in 2 ways. One, we look specifically at the percentages of what you should have. So what our report looks like, if you should be having, say, 25% of your calories from protein, we look at that and say, okay, how many calories in a day are you eating? And based on what your output is, so how much do you go to the gym, or how sedentary is your life, And then how much weight do you want to lose ultimately, and how fast do you want to lose it, then I can manipulate that calorie count, but the percentages always stay the same. So let's say that for me personally, I consume about 1,750 calories a day. I do 1 to 2 workouts because that's part of my job and it's also part of my lifestyle.
Per day?
Per day.
That's amazing.
Oh, thanks. It's an obsession. Well, I mean, in a healthy way. Even if I don't go to the gym, like I still walk my dog. And when I say workouts, I don't mean like hitting it hard, heavy, intense. Sometimes it's a 30-minute walk with my kids or a ride in the neighborhood. I think that's a misconception, which we can talk about in a minute. But you do not have to spend an hour to 2 hours in the gym to get a good workout. You just have to be active. But at any rate, so I have 1,750 calories. So let's say that 25% of my nutrition is coming from protein. I would just manipulate that 25% of those calories. So I would take those that 1,750, knowing that 4% or that 4 calories per gram divided out into the 1,700, and I think it comes out to 109 grams of protein.
Okay. That's amazing that we can get that granular with what your body needs. That's amazing. I mean, that really, I just want to really make the point of how amazing it is to get that specific with your DNA. I mean, that really is, it takes the guessing out of what do you need to be eating?
I say that all the time. Yeah, we want to take the guesswork out. Nobody wants to say, like, should I
Let's
try this?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody wants to be on a diet for 8 weeks and get nowhere. It just doesn't feel good.
Right. Now, how do you get the genetic information?
So we use a cheek swab, which is just a piece of cotton, basically a Q-tip. You rub the inside of your cheek with it. We're looking for cheek cells. You send it into a lab, and they analyze it. Ultimately, the test kit has 4 different ones because we have had people come back with incomplete data, and we've had to run it again. The other option is if you've already done 23andMe, we've partnered with them so we can actually utilize their raw data.
Just pull the data and get it. Oh, that's fascinating. And so the other thing, besides exactly how much percentage of the macros you should be eating, it also tells you what exercise would be best for your body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all utilize body fat in a different way. So let's think back to caveman days. We needed body fat for multiple things. We needed to be able to stay warm.
Yeah.
We lived a somewhat nomadic lifestyle, potentially. We didn't farm, things like that. So having food was a hit or miss kind of thing. We didn't have a lot of it or consistently. So we had to be able to not only stay warm, but we had to be able to store energy, which is what fat is, in between meals. So let's say that today we caught 7 fish, we stumbled across a strawberry patch and ate a bunch of mushrooms. So, you're feeling pretty good about life. Well, tomorrow the stream dries up and the strawberries are no longer in season and it hasn't rained, so we haven't seen mushrooms in a hot minute. We might have to now walk 10 miles to find our next watering hole or to find the next opportunity. You might spend a day and a half hunting before you actually kill a rabbit, something like that. So we needed to be able to have that energy. Well, now in the land of plenty, where you can, run to the grocery store and scoop, whatever makes your heart happy, it's really hateful that we have all of that energy stored up. So our ability to break down body fat because of where we came from is a lot slower than most of us would want it to be. So we look at exercise and analyze it in a couple ways. One, we look at how does your body fat break down through cardiovascular exercise? And what that ultimately breaks down into is how quickly does your body go through glucose and glycogen before you get into that fat burning storage. So if you're slow, you're winning at caveman life. Right?
Right.
But again, in the land of plenty, if you're going slow at it, you have to really understand that information so that we know how to train you to get to that fat burning quickly.
So in the land of people sit at their computer all day for 10 or 12 hours, that doesn't help them.
Right. Well, So I always say it's not a report card. It's just information.
Right.
We can use that to manipulate our environment. So let's say that you do...
You get a stand-up desk or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, so let's say that you're low. What are your options? One, you could do fasted cardio or fasted training in general.
Yep. Okay.
Because you ate dinner last night. You're going to probably go 10 to 12 hours from one meal until you get up the next morning and get going. So you're going to have lower glucose and glycogen in your system. So your body is going to go straight into fat burning fairly quickly into your workout. Let's say that you're not a morning person, you have to take kids to school, or you just hate mornings, whatever the case is, or you just really love working out at 3 p.m. Like I have clients that is their time, that is their jam. So if that's the case, how do you manipulate that? Well, you can do your weight training first. So your body can quickly go into burning glucose and glycogen from weight training. And then once you're there, you can automatically start burning into that body fat because you're trying to recover all of that muscle tissue. Well, if you already know that and say you're only going to work out for an hour, doing your weight training first, say 30 to 45 minutes, then you can jump on the treadmill at the end and you can spend all of that time doing your cardio straight in the fat burning zone. So you're kind of two birds with one stone.
That's brilliant to know. I know for myself, having gone to the gym off and on throughout the years and then doing videos and then picking up yoga, like whatever it was, the latest thing, I would never know.
Yeah.
Like, should I warm up on the treadmill, then go do weights? Like, that's what people say to do because then your muscles are warm. Or should I just jump into a class or, do weights or sandwich the treadmill before and after weights? Like, you want to make the most of your time, especially busy women and, busy people in general, but especially busy moms who work. Like, if you're going to take that hour out, you want you want to make the most of it. You don't want to do something that's not going to help you.
Right. And that's actually that theory of doing weights and cardio together. That's actually where places like Orange Theory, boot camps, Camp Gladiator, even pieces and parts of like CrossFit, that's why they help so many people.
But not everybody, right?
Not everybody. Well, because not everybody needs that lifestyle.
Right.
And not everybody trains for it. But if that matches what your genetics need, it makes sense why it helps a lot of people. Yeah. Because you can get your weight training and your cardio done in 1 hour. It's super efficient.
Yeah.
So, classes like that are really great. Your third option is, if you have that low, is duration cardio, which is anything from 90 to 120 or greater minutes of doing a steady state cardio.
Oh, wow. How many times a week do people have to do that if they're in a slow fat burning state?
It kind of depends. So this is really a great option for my marathon runners.
Okay.
For my triathletes. For my weekend warriors who love to go for a 3 or 4 mile hike on the Greenbelt with their dog and their family.
Yep.
If you're a great gardener and you spend, Saturday and Sunday out in your garden mowing your lawn and whatever. Again, you don't have to be at the gym.
And you don't have to do it every day, necessarily. Correct. Long of cardio.
Well, and there's nothing that says you can't mix it up either. There's no reason you couldn't lift on Monday, Wednesday, Friday and do duration cardio Saturday, Sunday because you have more time.
And that's what you help people figure out based on their genetics. Like, you'll write out a fitness plan, too.
Exactly.
Or tell them exactly where their body is getting the most for its workout.
Right. Well, and I take into account their lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I'll talk to somebody and they'll say, I love to go on a long run on the weekend with my girlfriends, but Tuesdays and Thursdays, I take my children early to school. I work out in the afternoon on those days.
Yep.
Monday is always my busiest day. I always take that day off. I never work out on Mondays. Wednesday and Friday, I try to jump in on a spin class or a boot camp or something first thing in the morning. So I'll take all of that information into account, and then we talk about how you eat around it.
Yeah.
So it's twofold. So, okay, we know how your body likes to train. How can we manipulate the food around that to best utilize that time, not only for energy, but for recovery, and then, of course, for fat loss, if that's what you're after.
The genetic test tell us anything about how your body even responds to weight training? Do some people get a lot out of it? Some don't?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do look at how your body composition changes with strength training. So a couple different things. Like, we all know that guy that goes into Golds and he lifts and he walks out a string bean no matter what he does.
Right.
And then we also know that guy that walks by, looks at Golds, and gains a bicep. So you're just like, come on, man. Like, where do I fall into it?
That's all genetic. I think people don't realize sometimes you can be doing all the right things and it just may never happen for you.
Yes. Well, and I can't even tell you how many times I've had people say, like, I can eat and eat and eat and I never gain a pound. By the way, I want to be that person.
Those people. I know a couple of those people.
But on the other side of it, they're also looking at, like, they can't put on muscle tissue or they're not getting the physique that they want out of theirs. So we can look at it and say, okay, I personally have an enhanced ability to utilize strength training for body composition change, and I have a low ability to utilize cardio for fat loss.
Okay.
So let's talk about the world of I don't have a whole lot of time.
Yeah.
If I only have 30 minutes, I am much better to do 30 minutes of strength training than I am to go for a 30-minute run.
Oh, that's really good to know for busy people, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah, if you have 30 minutes, get it done. What's best for me?
Yes, absolutely. And I can't tell you how many times that I've had different, ages and stages in my life where I had different weight training partners, and I would maybe do 3 or 4 or 5 weight training sessions in a week because, I had friends that I was going with.
Yeah.
But nobody likes cardio. Or, I don't particularly. And, I mean, some people are mass runners, and that's amazing, but that's just not my jam. But I didn't have anybody that I was doing cardio with, so I was, like, squeezing some cardio in here and there. It was my best physiques, always, when I primarily did weight training.
And now you know why, because you probably didn't know your genetics then.
No, you're exactly right.
Interesting. So you said different times in your life, how does age play into working out and genetics, and do you take that into account when you're working with someone too?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of my clients are in kind of that middle period of life. So, like, 28 to 45-ish.
I just hit 40. So I'm there.
Happy birthday. Yes.
I'm there.
Yes. And that's really the time when our careers are in full swing.
Yeah.
We are starting families. Yeah. So we're having that crazy influx and deflux of hormones. Once you kind of get past that baby stage, there happens to be this overwhelming stress of whether or not you are a stay-at-home mom, there's stress to that. Whether or not you're a working mom, there's stress to that.
Absolutely.
You cannot win, ultimately, no matter which you choose.
That could be a whole nother podcast. But you're absolutely right. Right? And then you're trying to work out too. Like, where does the mom guilt fall in that? Right?
Exactly.
You've been at the office all day, but you still want to go for a run or that type of thing. And we've decided in my house to just completely put mom guilt aside, and you have to take care of yourself. Like, you have to do that to be there and to be present for your kids. But making the most of your time makes so much sense. I certainly don't want to spend 30 or 45 minutes doing something that
is wasting your time.
Yeah, that's not going to tone my body the way I want it to, or this is brilliant.
Yep. So we look at that, and then I've noticed, and I've read a little research, and you can probably actually speak more to this, but at about 35-ish, women are starting to have more and more thyroid issues and imbalances.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, I think, is environmental. Yeah, well, go ahead, please.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of it is some of the toxins that are in our system, especially fluoride in our water. I think it's finally starting to build up. I think a lot of it could be adrenal stress and adrenal fatigue. We're stressed up here, and the thyroid's like, whoa, you can't stay up here in this adrenal fight or flight. We need to slow it down. I think a lot of it can be autoimmunity that's going on, underlying infections. There's a lot of different things. But no, this is interesting to look at. So do you look at if somebody has thyroid issues, diabetes, all of that when you're looking at their genetics for nutrition and exercise?
We do not. I would refer them to somebody like you.
Okay.
And it's usually when they've been to multiple, and you probably feel this way, they've been to multiple doctors and nobody's really pinpointing holistically. They're like, here, take a pill. And I don't want to take a pill. I want to know how I can heal my body.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons they come to me. They like, I've tried all of the diets.
Yep.
I've tried all of the workout plans.
Yep.
None of them are working for me. So we establish one that's right for their genetics. They're still having issues, whether it be thyroid, hormonal, a lot of times gut health.
Yeah.
And
repairing the gut.
Yep.
Huge.
And we look at that, and we actually do run a panel on some micronutrients, which are your vitamins and minerals, to look at a few of those pieces, like your folate and your vitamin B12. And I know your reports are even more enhanced specifically for gut health.
Yeah. So let me ask you, when you find out if somebody is having an issue with their micronutrients, can you recommend, like, okay, you probably need B9 or B12 to get things going?
I refer them either to you or to, they need to have an immediate blood test because DNA just tells us what your tendency is. Right. It may not micro point out, are you actually deficient right now?
Right, because there's so many factors, environmental, what you are eating, if you've been supplementing.
Correct.
Yeah, and I tell patients that too in our genetic reports. Just because you have the gene, for example, the HLA-DQ A1 and A2 gene, just because you have the gene to where you could be set up for celiac disease, you can't break down gluten. If you've been off gluten, doesn't mean you have the disease.
Right.
And we don't necessarily do this as we do nutrigenomics, but just because you have the breast cancer gene doesn't mean you're going to have breast cancer, right?
Right.
But we know that you're set up most for it, so let's pull away and do the environmental things that can help prevent as much as we can.
Right.
But yeah, genes aren't necessarily death sentences or sentences in general. Like you said, you need to actually look at the levels before you tell people to go on different things, but that all could matter.
Right. And I think, and something that you just said I want to touch on is just because your genetics say that you're predispositioned for something doesn't mean it's happening right now. And the one big thing that a lot of DNA and genetic companies that are out there are missing is that plan, is that like setting people up with an actionable plan that fits their lifestyle to make sure that, you know, if you are predispositioned for celiac disease and you may or may not have it, it would still behoove you to maybe go on a cleanse and see if when you reintroduce, gluten, does it affect you?
Right.
And that's really outside of my scope of practice. It's really more physician level.
But that's a little different than how you're looking at genes, though, right? So, or is it? So if somebody is slow at burning fat, they're not determined to obesity, but they're definitely more prone to it, but then you can put that plan in place.
Correct.
Yeah, so it doesn't mean you are going to hold weight, but you might have to work out differently to not hold weight. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly. And you're exactly right. So when we look at it, and even our tests, the more that research is coming out, the more enhanced they are. So we're about to come out with a second evolution of the Lean GX, where it actually looks at your predisposition to regaining weight after it's been lost.
Oh, wow.
And we're also looking at a study right now, and I believe we're incorporating it into metabolic rate.
That's so fascinating because I have so many patients and just people I know that have gained and lost the same 30 pounds their whole life, right? So that could matter genetically. So once you find out if they are more predispositioned, what can you do to prevent?
So then we look at your genetic factors, and then we look ultimately we're looking environmentally.
Yeah.
How can I help you set up a lifestyle plan where you're not yo-yoing?
Got it.
And a lot of times it's those exclusionary diets that they lost 30 pounds for sure. Like Atkins in the 90s, like I don't want to hate on anybody that did it or that lives that lifestyle. But it was like people were eating that. They were excluding so many things from their nutrition plan that the day that they looked at a piece of bread or ate a bowl of pasta, they gained all of their weight and then some back.
Right. Well, and that is happening with like keto. I mean, again, I hate to say keto's wrong because I've seen great results. I respond great to keto. But I had a patient that sent your way. She was working with a ketogenic coach, and she was doing it with some girlfriends, and everybody around her is dropping weight, and she's like, what the heck's going on? I haven't lost anything. In fact, the second I went off, I gained. And I hadn't even lost. So that goes back to genetics, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but she came back and said, nope, keto's not right for me.
Yep. And that's something that, this is the reason I am not, you should be paleo. You should be pescatarian. You should be whatever. I don't label any of it. Let's look at what your genetics say that how you should be eating, and let's look at your natural lifestyle choices. Right. It's like, I naturally I prefer chicken and turkey, maybe a little fish. Like, we don't eat a lot of beef. It's not because I don't like a beautiful steak, because I absolutely do. It's just when I'm at the grocery store, that's not always what sounds good. So if I was writing a nutrition plan and somebody said, like, you're going to eat all of the steak, I'd be like, I don't think that it can, like it would be fun for like a week. A B positive.
So I don't think that Bs have a problem with red meat. I know As do. Like they just don't digest it well. Talking about being hunters and gatherers, have you seen an alignment with, and maybe not, maybe this is just something to think about or look at. Have you seen an alignment with blood type and genetics? Like A's typically, I'm thinking of the blood type diet, right, that came out. Like A's typically do really well with plant-based proteins, right. And O's do really well with animal-based protein and high fat, which is what I am and which is where I feel best, like in a paleo, keto-ish place. If I were to do all vegetarian, I completely crash, and to the point where I feel too weak after a couple weeks to work out.
Yeah,
like it doesn't work. Have you seen that align with genetics, or have you looked at it enough to really compare that?
I haven't looked at it enough to compare it, but I will tell you the people that have come to me who are educated on their blood test diet, they will generally say that they had chosen that lifestyle based on that. And when we look at their genetics, it generally follows pretty closely to it.
Fascinating, because you just don't know, right? There's so much out there, you just don't know. I found if there's, if that really works, I found in practice it to be true too. When people eat more right for their blood type, I see things like allergies and histamine issues lower a lot. So I've wondered if you've seen the same in weight loss and performance training and enhancement and things like that.
Yeah, when my clients really look at, especially those who have an enhanced ability to utilize carbohydrates, and I think this is the scariest because our culture for the last 30 years has been stay away from carbs.
Yeah.
But really it's stay away from processed foods is really what I think people should be saying. Because a carbohydrate, so stay away from broccoli.
So that statement you just said could almost sum up the podcast and could almost sum up probably every podcast I've been a part of with WellnessPlus television. Stay away from processed foods.
Yes.
We know it's killing our gut lining. We know it's affecting our brain chemistry. We know it's causing joint pain. We know it's causing gas and bloating and, stool issues, right? So stay away from carbohydrates that are processed.
Right.
But you're right. Broccoli has how many grams of carbs in it? I don't know.
So it's 15 grams for about 1.5 cups, but it's also 5 grams of protein.
Right.
So thinking about your vegetables and even your tubulars, even oatmeal. Oatmeal, you can have a half of a cup of oatmeal, and I think it's 22 or 25 grams of carbohydrates, and it's 5 or 6 or maybe 8 grams of protein. So depending on the quality of the oats and whether or not you're doing steel cut or whatever. But you can get multiple macronutrients out of it, and people don't consider that. Not only as being healthy, but they're like, oh, I can't eat carbs, so I'm just going to eat all of the bacon.
Yeah. And then when I've seen people do that, you can only do that for so long until you eat all of the bad carbs, right?
Yes.
You have to find a balance, or you're going to, eat protein, and then boom, you're sitting there eating an entire birthday cake. And
my question is how do these people go to the bathroom? Right. I'm you have to have some roughage to move things along, people.
That's true. Fiber, yes. Yeah. So you mentioned that part of what you do is train people. Do you physically work out with them? Do you go see them? Do you have distant clients that you kind of just walk through exercises?
So most of my clients are online clients.
Okay.
They live in different states. They maybe just live in different cities in the state that I live in. But a lot of them I train remotely. So whether that is creating their program and we FaceTime through their workouts, or I just write their program and then they follow up with me with a 15 or 20-minute conversation once a week. It kind of depends, and everybody's needs are different. People that are not as apt to be in the gym, or maybe they're trying at-home workouts for the first time, and they want just somebody to watch them and make sure that their form is correct and I can speak to them live, then all of that is done remotely.
Okay.
I also do in-person training. It's very rare anymore. Most of the people that I train in person are super close, local in Austin, usually clients that I've had in the past, or somebody who reaches out and they really need help understanding how to manipulate and work through the gym. And then sometimes I work out with friends, and I don't teach group fitness, which is where most coaches will then work out with their clients. But I do take a lot of group fitness classes because I love the family environment of it. Like, it makes me happy. So
I think it's motivating, right? And you have videos, though, you can tell your clients. Like, you'll write, do, squats this many reps and do lunges and this, and you've put it all in video for people to see their form and...
Correct. Yes. Yeah. So we put together, there's multiple videos out now, but there'll be multiple different workouts. So let's say that your shoulder day where we hit shoulders, a little bit of chest, maybe some triceps. I'll walk through every movement, every exercise in video form. I'll discuss how to, handle the weights, where to position yourself, how to broaden your chest, depending on, the movement, where you should be flexing, how you should keep your arms tight, or, where to push through your heels if we're in a squat or a deadlift position. So I kind of walk you through verbally the exercise, and then that's just the actual movement. Everybody's prescription, if you will, or my goal for them is different based on their current lifestyle, their injuries, past injuries, their ultimate goal. So
and their genetics.
And their genetics. Exactly.
Of what they need to do.
So somebody that has access to, say, a 24-hour fitness or a big Globo gym, their workouts are going to look very different than somebody who has access to an apartment gym. And that's going to look very different to somebody who works out from home because that's what's best for their family.
Yep.
And none of them are wrong. And they're all easy to manipulate for, to create a program. But then just making sure that as people are going through those workouts, so not only are they going at the right intensity, but then also that their movements are correct to abstain from injury.
Got it. No, that's great. It's amazing to me that we can do all this through video and online, right? Gone are the days that you have to go to the gym with somebody right next to you and watch you and or like I said, jump into the class and just guess and wonder if it's the right thing for you. Yeah, that's amazing. Who are most of your clients? Are they people looking more for weight loss? Are they people for performance enhancement? Do you still train people for competitions, things like that?
So I would say 90% of my clients are for weight loss.
Okay.
And I would say even like 80% of that 90% are people that feel like they've tried everything and they're tired of wasting their time.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I've done all the things. Like, I can't lose my baby weight. I've been, yo-yoing, as you said, the same 30 pounds for the last 20 years. Like, what is right? Ultimately, like I'm tired of guessing. What is right for my body? Because I don't want to try Ann's and Joe's and Frank's and Susie's programs anymore. Like, I just want to know what's right for me.
Brilliant.
So that I do still randomly coach competition, but it's very few and far between. Bodybuilding, although absolutely a passion, and I loved it as a I guess it was kind of something that got me out of rough spots in my life. So it was really much my motivation and my ability to concentrate on myself in a very healthy way, very self-centered. And I liked it, and it was my hobby. But true athletes, like I have a couple that do different styles of triathlons. I have one guy that does Ironman. I have one guy that does something similar to Ironman, but it's all on heavy terrain, so mountain biking as opposed to road biking. But so I do have some professional athletes that, train, and they train for financial success from their programming.
So what kind of edge they have by knowing their genetics and knowing what foods are best to put into their body, when, how much, and what exercises to do, when, where, how much. So, is it almost like cheating? Is it almost like cheating?
We're not blood doping, like
yeah, right.
We just know, like, are you? So what we've primarily been talking about is Lean GX, which is really about burning body fat. But we have another program called Elite GX, and it really is about athletic performance. So we look at what is your muscle fibers. Are you fast twitch or slow twitch? Which really then breaks down into, are you more of a power or an endurance athlete?
Right.
And the difference between the two is we release a hormone that slows down our muscles, essentially. So if you're an endurance athlete and you're a type 2 fast muscle twitch, which means you're a power athlete, you're going to start, you're going to start feeling that burn a lot faster.
And so you would not be designed to run a marathon.
Correct. But let's say that you love it. And I have power athletes that do duration sports. So ultimately, we take that, because none of this is a report card, right? It doesn't mean you have to do this for the rest, this is how you have to live your life. So if we know that you want to do an Ironman and you're a power athlete, we just train you differently, because eventually that hormone is going to release and you're going to start slowing down, right? You're going to start feeling that pain. But what if we can take it, instead of you feeling it at mile 8, what if we can stretch it and you don't start feeling it until mile 17?
Yeah, then you can complete.
And so like if you can take that information, let's say that you play a power sport, so really quick, fast twitch, maybe you're a soccer player, or maybe you really wanting to get into powerlifting, but you're an endurance athlete. How do we train your muscles so that we can get faster twitch out of you? Like ultimately long term. So we just take and again, it's all just information. So we take that information and then adjust your training. So let's say that you're a college or a high school athlete, and let's say that you're a high school athlete and you want to play soccer in college or potentially go pro. What do we need to do based on your genetics so that we know how to train you to keep you from injury? Maybe you have higher risk of injury due to your genetics. What does that actually mean? How do we take care of your bones? How do we take care of your ligaments? How do we take care of your tendons based on your genetics so that we can keep you from injuring yourself? What if you have naturally higher systemic inflammation? Well, how do we feed your body to reduce your inflammation? Because ultimately an inflamed body is going to move slower. You're going to have a harder time recovering. Even just mental acuity wise, like you're going to have a harder time concentrating in school.
Totally.
So how can we take that information and make sure that we're not only supporting you as an athlete, but supporting you as a student athlete and supporting you mentally and physically, making sure you're getting enough sleep? And we talk about all of that.
This test should be run for college, high school athletes, for everybody. This totally, I imagine even pros could benefit from.
Absolutely.
And I think we call it nutrigenomics, nutrition genetics, and so nutrigenomics. I think this field of nutrigenomics is so new that I bet colleges haven't even thought about bringing somebody in and looking at all of their college students of, you could be eating wrong, not bad,
right,
but just wrong for you. And so that could totally continue to cause inflammation, which could cause injury, which poor recovery time, which could shorten your athletic career.
Correct. Absolutely.
This is like really brilliant stuff to, I don't know why every athlete isn't doing this.
It was actually, this particular test, EliteGX, was the one that spoke the most to me as, I've been an athlete my entire life. I did gymnastics and swimming, and I ran track and cross country. And I know those are all individual sports, but they were still like very hard on my body. And knowing, if I knew then that I was a power athlete, I would have been a lot more pointed towards making sure that, my vault was stronger. I would have made sure that my backhand I would have spent more time strengthening and weight training at a younger age. Running cross country wouldn't have really benefited me other than just the fact that I did it for friends. But then knowing that I should have been doing more HIIT training in my cross country training, I actually probably would have gotten faster.
Yeah, which doesn't really make sense, right? If you didn't know that about yourself. I feel like I should test my 4-year-old daughter, and this sounds crazy, but I just signed her up for gymnastics. We're doing our first class tomorrow. And I wonder what's right for her, right? And then as a parent, knowing this, I wonder if we could help steer our child in the right direction, because kids try everything most of the time, right? And sometimes they're really good at something, like, they try everything until they get a hit, right? Until they realize I'm really good or I really love it. Yep. But you could absolutely, and not that I would ever be that kind of parent that, like, you have to be good at baseball or whatever.
Right, yeah.
But you could definitely say, wow, I realize her genetics are good for, soccer or whatever, softball or volleyball. Let me let's guide her and direct her into that versus setting her up for failure for cross-country running that she may never be good at, and then, I don't know, doesn't feel good about herself because she's not good, or just gets injured.
Right.
Yeah, no, this is really good information. I'm so glad we're talking about this because people need to know this is even something you can
accessible.
Test for.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how affordable or unaffordable is the testing? Because I know in our world of doing testing for methylation and for, all kinds of, are you more susceptible to infections? Just 5 years ago, genetic testing was thousands, like $3,000 to $4,000 for 1 or 2 MTHFR genes. It's come way, way down that we can do a full panel for under $1,000. Like a full panel of 55 different genes that we can definitely look at and say, these are the diseases you're most susceptible to. Let's make some changes now. So yeah, just give us kind of ballpark.
So, each of our reports, if you do one individually, is $400.
Yeah. That's amazing.
And yeah, we go over everything. I think the most enhanced one, looks at 72 genetics. I think the least is 38 or 41, something like that. So yeah, we look at a lot. That
is so reasonable that this is at everybody's fingertips.
Yes.
And having somebody like yourself guide and walk you through this, we think that we could do this on our own, right? Like, we think we could get on 23andMe and look at their, and I hate to keep calling them out, but to look at their, recommendations, but you really have to be trained in what you're looking for to set something like this up, I feel.
And know that their recommendations are general.
Right.
They're not specific to you. So if they talk to you about your ability to utilize protein, they're going to talk to you probably about a couple of plant-based, but primarily animal-based proteins. They're not going to give you a full understanding of how to pair your plant proteins so that you're getting all of your branched chain amino acids, making sure that we're really pairing food for optimal health and optimal protein absorption. Because unlike animal proteins, plant proteins don't carry all of the pieces of vital protein that you need in order to digest them completely. And so that's one of the problems that...
Wait, say that again?
So amino acids is the breakdown of protein. We need a set panel, they call them branched chain amino acids. We do not make those ourselves in our bodies, so we have to ingest them. Well, not all plants have all pieces of protein. So we talked about broccoli. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, broccoli doesn't have all of the branched chain amino acids. So you need to pair the broccoli with another plant in order to get the entire piece of it. So I think
that's important, I think, for people to know that.
Yeah.
Because that amino acids help build muscle.
Correct.
There's so much, they help with brain function. There's so many things that they heal the gut lining that you need amino acids for.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people who don't eat meat supplement a lot with amino acids oftentimes, or pair. You have to know and learn to pair with the right foods.
Right. I think the most common and probably the most worldwide pairing of 2 plant-based foods is rice and beans.
Okay.
They are a perfect complement to each other that provides and completes protein. So that's, if you look at pretty much all cultures, they will have some variation of that in it. If you look at the Latin culture, they do a lot of rice and beans. And I know some of it comes from Asian influence from back in the 1800s and 1700s, but it's sustained because of 2 things. 1, it does complete your protein, and 2, it's cheap.
Right.
And you can, for a poor farming family, you can eat a lot of rice and beans.
Yeah. The first thing I thought of when you said rice and beans in other countries was when I've done mission trips in Haiti, and every medical mission trips and every meal was basically rice and beans.
Mm-hmm. And that's why.
Yeah. And so it's sustainable. It's, cheap. Interesting. Interesting. So, no, that's important to know about the amino acids, especially people who are trying to work out and maybe they're not feeding their body properly.
Right. And to get back to the athletic performance piece of it, because we kind of derailed off of that, making sure that we're getting enough of that protein into our athletes to make sure that they're rebuilding and reconstructing to prevent injury, to make sure that they're building their muscles correctly, especially whether you're a strength or an endurance athlete, are you trying to build shorter, fast muscles? Or are you trying to elongate your muscles so that you can go a further distance?
Right.
And just knowing how to feed your body according to that, based on your genetics, based on what it says for your food, and based on what it says for your type 1 or type 2 muscle twitch. Really important.
Love it. I think that's so important. Okay, so you've talked about that you do a test for weight loss called Lean GX, and you said the other one for performance enhancement is called Elite GX. What other testing and what do they tell us that you offer as a coach?
Yeah, so we do 2 other reports. One is Energy GX, and that one really speaks to healthy aging. So creating a lifestyle that really gives you more energy. We look at things like, what is your body's look as far as healthy aging. So your skin sensitivity to the sun. We look at facial aging. We look at skin glycation, which is like how quickly your skin recovers.
Wow.
Yeah. We look at stretch marks. What is the likelihood that you're going to get stretch marks and or have an issue healing with scar tissue?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we can really analyze how your body is going to respond, and then we can create, again, this is all about creating a plan, creating an actionable plan. So if we know that you're more likely to burn in the sun, which you kind of probably already know, what do we do? Let's make sure you're using enough sunblock. Let's make sure you have a hat on. If you're more susceptible to, let's say, stretch marks, and you're about to get pregnant for your first time, okay, that's super valuable information.
Yeah, yes, it is.
So, what do we need to be doing, like cocoa butter-wise on your belly, making sure that we're keeping you hydrated and making sure that we're feeding you well and really keeping that
your weight
skin supple, keeping your weight under control.
Weight. I mean, I'm not saying women shouldn't gain weight during pregnancy. That's not at all.
Right.
But trying to keep it as minimal because you are going to get more stretch marks according to your genetics. Versus
Correct.
somebody who, and I've seen them, I have friends, they've gained 70 pounds and not one stretch mark. Yeah.
Right? I mean.
So that's good information.
Yeah, and I've seen people that even just from growth, like through high school and college, that they got nasty stretch marks like underneath their arms or on the inside of their legs. Some of them went away, and some of them, they just have those kind of forever. So if you know that.
This is like an anti-aging panel almost.
Yeah. We call it healthy aging because it can't stop you from aging. But yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And if you think about it skin and face-wise, how much money do we spend on face care?
Oh, yeah.
Lotions and hydration and
masks.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
Yeah, facials.
Yes. I mean, all of the things. Never mind all the plucking and the twisting and the waxing. But we always are trying to keep our skin looking as young and supple as possible.
Absolutely.
So if we know how to treat it genetically.
Yes.
Like if you don't have an issue with, say, stretch marks or scarring, that might not be something that you really think about. But if you have a really big issue with skin glycation, okay, let's feed you accordingly. Let's make sure that we're taking care of your body. One of the big things with skin glycation, and this is a big issue for people who live in Texas and love barbecue, is that actually enhances the functionality of your skin, like losing its glycation.
Like, what do you mean? Like
so,
cooking over an open barbecue?
So barbecue has a tendency to caramelize, like the actual sauces.
Yeah.
Caramelizing that food actually ages your skin faster.
Wow.
You know how to go against that or how to kind of work with it? Eat more blueberries.
Okay.
Drink more green tea.
Okay.
Ideally stay away from all of the barbecue. But I'm not saying don't ever eat it.
But again, we're in Texas.
Right. So I'm like, again, I'm not saying don't eat it ever. I'm just saying
counteract it.
Yeah, let's work let's work together with your body knowing that you have a slight or higher issue with it. Also,
I thought you were going to say like, I don't know, standing over the smoker, which I think can also not be
probably not awesome,
thing, right?
Yeah.
I think it can let off some toxins, but got it. But actually the caramelization of the meat can age your skin.
Yep. And they actually even talk about how and even not just in barbecue, but even any kind of like burnt foods. Yeah. Like some people like a good burnt steak or a good burnt whatever, good burnt burger. Those are actually counterintuitive to what you want to do for your skin. And we don't think about it because we always think about when you're ingesting food for gut health.
Right.
Not for how radiant your skin looks.
Right. We say in functional medicine, your skin is basically a mirror image of the inner gut lining. So if you have a lot of skin breakouts, especially like eczema or psoriasis, we know there's some leaky gut or gut lining inflammation. They're parallel.
Yeah. I can please do something else on that same mark is I've noticed that a lot of times when I'll put people on a nutrition that fits their lifestyle better, which generally includes excluding a lot of processed foods, they stop breaking out.
Totally. Well, the skin is the quickest, fastest way for your body to get rid of toxins. It doesn't have to go through the GI tract. It doesn't have to go through the urinary tract. It doesn't go through any of our detox systems. It just purges out through the lymph and through our skin. So, it's the quickest, fastest way for your body to say, oh, what is this stuff? Get it out.
Yeah. And I've had friends that even as adults, have just nasty breakouts. And they would clean up their diet.
Totally.
And it would be amazing. Like, I had a girlfriend that, I don't know if she was just following another girlfriend, but she ended up doing a juice cleanse for, I think it was 7 days. I'd never seen her skin look more beautiful.
Yeah.
And she was eating some lean fishes and things like that in that mix. But her diet was so clean that I'd never seen her without a pimple before.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, she just had, like, beautiful porcelain skin. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's something to that.
You think about little babies or little kids that haven't been on the earth long enough to become toxic, right? Like their skin is, you just don't have those, bumps. And no, that's really good information.
Yeah. We also look at kind of the feel of your body. So are you more likely to exercise? Are you more likely to indulge in sugar? Are you more likely to have impulse control issues? Like you're more likely to smoke, or you're more likely to have.
Tell us that.
Our genetics can tell us that exactly.
Yeah, I believe that.
It's so funny because there's a lot of people that'll go and like, well, you're not likely to, overindulge in sweets, but you would more likely have a salt affinity. And they're like, yeah, for sure, I will eat all of the chips and queso. You can have all the chocolate, And so it's interesting how that plays into our genetic being that. It's like, I don't care about sweets and chocolate, but I love a good, salty snack, crackers and cheese, things like that.
Interesting.
And completely genetic. And then we also look at, in that report, mental acuity. How long are you going to be able to stay focused? What can we do to keep your brain active and healthy? And one of the things that they talk a lot about is making sure that even as you're aging, you're exercising your brain. So just as important it is to exercise your body, making sure that we're exercising your brain. So what does that look like? There's a reason that bridge is so huge.
Oh, wow.
For our grandparents' ages, it's because you have to think in 3 different ways all of the time during the game. So it exercises their brains in a fun way.
I love that. The other thing is Sudoku, that numbers game people will do. And I think that's a lot of people who say once they retire, everything has gone downhill kind of thing, whatever their industry was, because they're not thinking and they're not using their brain so much. So that's really good to know. And so the genetics can tell us more if that happens quicker for you.
Correct.
Or, so
if you're more likely. Exactly.
So you need to do more to exercise your brain.
Wow. And you can look into it as, it doesn't even have to be anything hard. It can honestly just be reading trashy novels.
Right.
Like reading, just reading in general is great.
Something that makes your brain think, not watching television, because you don't have to process, right?
Correct.
The same way as reading.
Which I think, it's kind of sad that the newspaper is no longer a thing. Think about how many grandparents, my grandparents for sure, when I got up in the morning and I would be staying at my grandparents' house, my grandfather would be sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
That was part of his exercise for his brain, although he was just obviously looking for the news for the day. Or
that's all fed to us now just through television and social media. And you don't have to actually read. There is something about brain activity and connectivity and about reading it that I think keeps your brain sharp. You're working your left side of your brain.
Yeah. So that's something that we look at. We look at early hearing loss, which I like to tease that, you can start telling your wife now that you can't hear her. You can start your selective hearing. But then we also look at, lactose intolerance. What is your likelihood of that? Honestly, though, at this age and stage of our life, most of us know if we are lactose intolerant.
Right.
But if you've just kind of had an affinity to stay away from lactose, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're intolerant. But if you are more likely, keeping that kind of as a trend in your life would be good. Instead of maybe reincorporating cheese or reincorporating yogurts or something like that.
Gotcha.
So we look at that, and that's kind of a broad look of the healthy aging. But then we also have Thrive GX, which is just strictly all your vitamins and mineral panel. So we look at everything from your vitamin A, your B9, which is your folate, your B12, B6. We look at your vitamin C and D. We look at calcium, magnesium.
And this is how well you make it or how well you convert it or both?
So our tendency is how we break down food into those vitamin and minerals and pass it through the cellular wall.
Okay.
So there's a couple cool things to know about that. So for one, and you can speak to this also, if you have a low ability to break down foods, which are primarily animal proteins, into vitamin B12 and pass them through the cellular wall, there could be two issues. One, it could be that that's the problem, but secondarily, it could also be your B9, which is your folate, because your folate is your transport system for your B12. And so a lot of us, the MTHFR genetic SNP is one that is really being focused on right now for gut health because of its utilization with your vitamin B12.
Yes.
And so making sure that we have a good balance. And also when people find out that they're deficient in B12, you don't just take B12, you would take a chelated folate along with it for better absorption.
In a methylated form, too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, that's really good information for people to know just in general.
Yep. And then we look at iron. So people who have spoken about being anemic, maybe just at certain times in their life, ladies during their cycles or during pregnancy, if you have an enhanced ability to absorb iron from food, but you're anemic, what does that mean? Well, it could be a couple things. One, maybe you're not eating enough iron-rich foods, or you're eating iron-rich foods with calcium-rich foods, and calcium and iron on the cellular level, calcium gets the right of way, so it's going to actually block the iron. Or maybe you're having an issue with beta-carotene or vitamin A, which is the transport system for iron. So you can look at those in three different ways and really understand on a cellular level based on your genetics why you're deficient in certain things. You might not need to take a supplement, or you might not need to take a supplement long term.
Right.
Like you might just need it for a little while until we adjust your nutrition according to what your body needs. And then eventually, and I know this is with your practice as well, ultimately our goal is to get people on whole, real foods so they can heal their body from the inside.
Right.
And so if we know where you're deficient and we can kind of manipulate and break down your natural current nutrition and see what your body needs more of or less of, or maybe at different times of the day, then we can feed you better so that you have a healthier internal gut, you have better absorption of vitamins and minerals. Ultimately, the goal would be then to analyze that information based on your lifestyle and say, okay, you have a really low utilization of calcium or a tendency to absorb calcium. What does that mean? What does it mean for your vitamin D3? Looking at all of those pieces. So.
And what does that mean for your future as far as osteoporosis? Or, those types of things, or getting pregnant, right? The baby takes our calcium to build bone. And it's all so fascinating. We can look at this, and I love it. I love this geeking out at this stuff.
Me too, me too.
It's just amazing that you can look that granular at your body and know what to do. And we say the same thing in practice. If we just take away what you have excess of, what you have too much of, and give what you don't have enough, and you allow that to happen, that balance to happen, the body can heal itself.
Yep.
I do believe that.
Yep, I agree. And I think that's one of the things that when people just say, oh, just take a multivitamin, or oh, just take these supplements. And there are genetic tests out there right now that are specifically designed to sell supplements.
Right. Sure.
And I had a client just recently who sent me her initial genetic profile from one company, And I was reading through it and I'm like, did they review this with you? And she said, yeah. And I was like, how did you feel? And she said, overwhelmed and confused. And I was like, yeah. And of all of the information, what did they tell you? Oh, I need to take these 7 supplements. And I said, are you actually deficient in any of those vitamins? Oh, I don't know.
She just has the predisposition to be.
Correct.
We need to actually test it. Yeah. In our practice, too, we say blood work, saliva testing, hormone testing, brain chemistry testing. We do all that. That tells us what's out of balance. The genetics can tell us why.
Exactly.
So we still need to know what's out of balance, and we need to know why, because we can correct, pivot, change for the future when we know the why.
Yes.
But the what matters in that moment, because we're dynamic. We're always changing, right? Especially you could be anemic when you're having a heavy menstrual cycle, but you're not going to be anemic your whole life. Like you said, you may not need a supplement, or you may for a part of your life. Yeah, so that's absolutely true.
Yeah, or if you're an omnisaur, you'd be like, maybe have, an extra serving of beef during your cycle. Yeah. And eat it with some sweet potato, which are high in beta-carotene.
There you go.
So,
and that's the kind of stuff you tell us.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I do it. Yep.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for coming out of your busy day with your boys and your practice and spending time with us and sharing all this amazing information. If someone wanted to get this testing or somebody wanted to work with you, how do they contact you? Because you can work with anybody. They don't have to be local.
Correct. So you can either email me at Kati, which is Kati, at MyBodyGX.com, or you can just go straight onto the website, MyBodyGX.com, and take a look at the different reports and different tests. If you want to set up a phone call, you can set it up straight through the website. Or if you just want to follow me on Instagram and just watch my recipes and the workouts and just get some great information, my Instagram is at MyBodyGX.
What was it you just posted? Was it spring rolls or Thai?
I did a Thai salad, which was amazing. It was a Thai watermelon. So
That's what it was.
Yeah, Thai noodles or rice noodles. So our family is mostly grain-free because my mom is gluten intolerant. She's not she doesn't have celiac, but it causes inflammation for her. So we do a lot of rice type things. So, but it was cucumber, onion, watermelon, and then it was mixed with fish sauce and something else. I can't remember. But you toss that and chilled it after you'd cooked the noodles. So the noodles and all of that part of the salad was chilled. And then you grill your steak. And if you're not a steak person, you could have absolutely done chicken. You could have done shrimp, or you could have done tofu. Yum. And then I fanned it, I laid it across because I wanted a pretty picture, and then top it off with cilantro. It was so refreshing and so bright in color. Yum. It was so good.
Well, there you go. If you want to learn about beautiful food, follow her Instagram. Awesome. Thank you so much, Kati.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely. And thank you for watching the Wellness Plus television. We'll talk to you next time. We're the only country in the world that separates the mind from the body. Yeah, the only country.
I'm joined today by Athena Jezik, Ed Nordit, Robert Gardner, Dr. Paula Bruno.
The body has a natural ability and tendency to want to heal.
It doesn't have to be complicated or costly.
I can talk science. Yeah, we'll talk science for sure.
We do often need to supplement with magnesium. Unbalanced life.
Vitally important to make sure that the entire system is opened up.
Actually, happiness and suffering are states of mind. They're not external things.
Do you have any recommendations for our listeners?
Use a tennis ball.
Vinyasa or hatha yoga.
Try a HIIT workout. You only got to do 20 minutes.
Every day, having a practice for yourself.
We're not powerless,
right,
to improve our situation.
Welcome to the WellnessPlus Podcast.